welcome back, everyone. So, now we're going to dive into conflict. So, character conflicts, the different types of conflicts. It's just drama, drama, drama. That's the story needs lots of drama. I was actually told that the dramas should just stay in the books and not in our lives, which is, it'd be nice if that was true, but it's kind of impossible. Um, so, in this series of speaking about conflicts, yeah, we're just going to be going over the different types of conflicts that you can create for your characters and how the unique conflicts can arise as you get deeper into telling your story. So I hope you enjoy, and we are going to get into it. Okay, so conflict. What drives the story is conflict in your characters, whether it's internal, external, or both. Um, Conflict is what gets that story moving and gets the reader to keep flipping through those pages because of, what's going on. So, depending on how you apply the conflict and how you have it all play out, will make the character seem more relatable. And even though we're writing fiction, with nonfiction, you're basically it's a with nonfiction, the conflicts and issues are already there. You're writing it out. And depending on if it's you're writing your story or you're writing it about somebody else that people know, you might want to dig deeper into and kind of like go into the psyche of that person. But as far as with fiction, we're trying to make it, even though it's fiction, we're trying to make it as relatable, as real as it can be to the reader so that they can relate and get more into the story, get more into what's going on. So, yeah, you need really good conflict. And at times I find myself sometimes I will kind of want to hold back, or I'm like, "Oh no, that's too much." And sometimes, yeah, it could be too much. You have to gauge it. You got to figure out, what's the right amount of conflict to add and at what point. It's all there's a whole technique behind it, but the more you write, the more you create, the more you will be able to work it out. And this is where, when you're working on your book, this is where, when you take that break for 2 weeks, is another thing that you want to visit when you pick your book back up again. You want to look at how the story's flowing, how the conflicts are. Do they make sense? Are they stupid? So I'm revamping my book, Spirit Part One, right now. And I had to, even though the book got good ratings, I think there's some parts where I felt like the reasons for the characters' actions were kind of weak or too silly or too unrealistic. So I'm actually correcting that and going deeper. Like, yeah, the person did this, but why? So a good example, and I always use my books because that's what I write, that's what I know. It's all I can really give you good examples on is I have the book, there's a scene with Tamaris and his ex-girlfriend, his ex-fiance, her name is Natasha. And they dated back in high school. It's like 19, not high school, college. This is like 19 years ago, right? She comes from a family that her mother and father died young. She was raised by her uncle, and she has her whole belief system. Even though they're attending this spiritual college, she's there by, it's almost like she's there by default, like she's there because, that's where her uncle's sending her, because of their family. But her and her uncle they study quantum physics, and they're into that kind of stuff, but they're not really into like anything religious. They're not spiritual. They don't consider themselves spiritual, but they do like trying to unwind the unseen, if it makes sense, which kind of doesn't, but it does. Well, she opened up a portal and got herself lost in another dimension. So with my stories, it goes from, I don't say it goes from sci-fi to spiritual. It's just it. I guess it's kind of slash between sci-fi and spiritual. I don't know. It's different. I like to play with genres. It's a whole nother topic. So anyway, 19 years. Fast forward 19 years. Tamaris and his new wife, Michaela, find themselves in this other dimension, and they come across her, and she's, like, she's acting kind of crazy and weird to them, and they're just like, in a way, finding it like, okay, she's lost her mind. She's been here so long, she's just lost her mind. We just gotta tolerate her, whatever. But I'm like, I had to, I don't know, I had to really take another look at this character and go deeper. And I realized, like, you got to think this woman has been 19 years trapped in a whole nother dimension with people that do not look like her. She's comes from a world where she's blonde hair, blue eyes. She comes from a world where everybody accepts her. You know what I mean? And here she goes into a world where she's the odd one. She looks funny. She looks weird to them. And they don't really care for her in that world. But it has nothing to do with her looks. It has everything to do with her attitude. But she doesn't get that. But she, when she sees Tamaris again after 19 years, or actually at that point it would have been 16 years, something like that. Um, she really, like, she just it just all comes out. She just breaks down. It all comes out. And I think it's not just that she's seeing somebody who she loved or loves. She's also seeing a human, a human for the first time in so many years. So she's gonna be a little nuts. She hasn't, been in a relationship in years. She had nothing but time to think about the mistakes she made to end up where she did. So she's gonna be a little kooky. But I had to kind of clean it up. I took out the kookiness in her, and just I had her, like, really, like tell him, like, look, I understand that you're married now, and I understand that, but I need closure. I need closure so that I can move past this relationship. Like, she really wants to have this heart to heart with him. And as much as she loves him, as much as she wants to be with him, as much as she wants to jump his bones, because I would too if I was her, um, she understands that she made the choices that led her to where she is. And now he has this new life and kids, and he's happy, and he's over her. And she's trying to accept that, because for her, it's like she just left. So everything's still fresh for her. But for him, it's been 19 years and he's done and over it. So that's the conflict. Like, she is she really crazy, or is she really just, let's just be real, like, not everybody will handle that situation well. I mean, I don't know any people who have flipped into other dimensions. So, but just put yourself there. This is the part about fiction. You just imagine yourself there. What would you do? Like, put yourself in your character's shoes, and then really try to understand, like, what's driving them, what's behind their conflicts. And it's kind of good to look into psychology. Either watch some YouTube videos on psychology. You don't have to go take a course at a college on psychology, but look into psychology and sociology. Did I say that right? Because they will help you understand uh, why people do the things they do, their triggers, different mental illnesses, this just different things. The crazy thing is, I really believe you could study psychology for eons and still not know people, because our brain is so amazing. So, anyway, conflict. So let's get into the next video. I'll talk to you soon. So, person versus self. When I think of this type of conflict, I actually think about the movie like I Am Legend with Will Smith. I think of just stories, situation where a character is trying to fight their own demons, trying to battle their own issues. Again, talking about Spirit in Spirit One, I have a character named Neil, and in the beginning of the book, he is really battling himself and battling his own issues. And he fails at it miserably, but he's battling his own issues um, and trying to make the right decision. But he's so afraid of the consequences that he makes all the wrong decisions. So in that person versus self, he lost. But those always make interesting stories because it also can help the reader self-reflect on the choices that they've made and what choices did they pick and how did their self win over what situations, things like that. So, and it doesn't have to be the same thing, but everybody at some point in our day, in our life, in our week, I think every day we are battling ourselves on different things. There's other things we'd rather be doing than going to work, you know. There's other things we'd rather be doing than going to school and there's we have to battle ourselves and that's when that like self-discipline and all that blah 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 comes in. But the truth is sometimes you'd rather just sit home and watch a movie. It's just and just zone out and but creating really good captivating conflicts within a character and a storyline, even if it's fiction, can be a great way to inspire people to kind of look within and see which one, who's going to win today. Is their self going to win, or are they going to win? What part of themselves is going to win today? Are they going to be successful in advancing themselves, whether in education or in business or whatever? Or is today going to be a give up day? Are they going to fall prey to what they feel like doing, sitting around eating chips and doing nothing, whatever that may be? So, person versus self. So, person versus society. So, for me, there's probably a ton of movies. I can't think of one off the top of my I can't remember the title to one off the top of my head, but there's a ton of movies that has person versus society. Um, for me, that would be like Forbidden. And Forbidden, right here, I have the character. This is a character. Oh my goodness, Alec, and that's one of the tribal guards. But he's actually an ally. So he is here. He is a white man defending and fighting back against, defending melanated people and fighting back against, racism and a racist society. And he did that by joining an organization dedicated to just that. And so for him, of course, it's a conflict because, there's a scene with him and Dakota where Dakota had just rescued his wife and he comes to help them and Dakota, says like, like what do we do to you people? Like why do you hate us so much, And he's just like he's deal with all these conflicting emotions, like, feeling guilt and shame and just not knowing what to say. But Dakota wasn't really talking to him. But like that's it just you have to read it to understand really. But it's this man's battling a society of people who look like him but don't think like him. So, you know, so it's a conflict. It's a conflict that he has. And he works in an organization where he is a minority in his organization. And he is cool with that because he knows that there's not as many people as there should be that look like him in this organization or that's willing to do what he does. Because if he got to take you out, he's going to take you out. He's going to do whatever he has to do his job because he believes in what he does. He wants to see a world without racism. He wants to see a world that's better, and he wants to eliminate racists. That's how he deals with it. So, you know, Michaela, Amali in Forbidden, her thing, she's fighting society against what she discovered about her fiance. Her fiance, she discovered is, you know, he's trying to bring back lynching to Florida. He's working to bring about this whole racist regime, which is actually just what's going on now in Florida. But she's doesn't even know how to battle it. And at one point in the conversation she has with her husband is like, how can I how can I help anyone when I'm afraid to do anything? I'm afraid to go out there, really put myself out there and do anything. So it's all these different conflicts against, person versus society. And how they handle it. The thing with conflict is you want to make sure, or you at least want to try to work out a solution. And the reason why you want to work out a solution is because you want the reader to feel like you want to give them hope, and you want to give them like, man, I never thought of it that way. I never looked at it that way. Your resolution may not be the correct answer. It may not be something people could do, but it at least gives that sense of justice served at the end. So, person versus society, person versus nature. So think Avatar when the first one when he ends up uh lost on the planet, and he's there trying to frantically make a spear, and he's all looking around him and looking crazy, and he's trying to adapt figure out this environment and adapt. And he's basically, it's him against nature. He's trying to figure this out, and he's freaked out by every little thing. And that's a good example of person versus nature. So it could also be like, maybe there's yeah, maybe there another good one would be Treasure Island. Is that the one where, yeah, that's the one where the family gets lost on an island and they have to survive. That's, person or family versus nature. And those can be fun. Um, there's a lot. I wouldn't even mind seeing, if you think about it. There's a lot. I don't know. There's a lot of stories about some strange things happening at campgrounds around the U.S. and Canada, stuff like that. And just people going camping in the woods and not coming back, or seeing some really weird stuff. So, like things like that, it's pretty interesting. So, person versus nature is pretty simple to explain. So, person versus the supernatural. So, just think of a person walking into a haunted house, and the spirits in there are very active. Very, very active. What is that character going through? What would that character feel? Like, how is it dealing with that? Seeing things you can't explain, feeling things you can't see, and just a whole experience. Do they run? Do they find some bravery tucked down deep. You know, there's so much that can be done, and especially when you do something like with the supernatural, because you have that freedom to really play with it, to really be imaginative. Um, it's like sky's the limit. Like you can, it's not, saying it's supernatural, so you can really play it up, make your own rules. And that's kind of the fun part with supernatural elements in books. It just like it's it does touch on the element of the unknown, so you can kind of play with the reader's imagination of they don't know what's going to happen next. They don't know if this is going to be good, bad, or what. So, person versus the supernatural is really, really, really fun to write. So, person versus technology, basically, that was me last night until like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, trying to get the AI to create my characters. We had it out. it was, I was not getting these characters to look the way I wanted. Um, it won in the end because I gave up. But no, there's other things like I Robot. I know I mentioned Will Smith movies before. I'm really not a huge fan of him. He's whatever, but I Robot is like the first, and I guess it's because of the image too. It kind of the first thing that comes to mind of a person versus man versus machine or whatever. So this I would say would be more for like science fiction genre. Um, again, it's fun. It does have the like kind of like supernatural. You have the element of the unknown because you can write whatever, you know. And there was a movie years ago where I think it was called House. I can't remember. It was called House or Home or something like that. But it was years ago. I think it's really old. I want to say it was like from the 90s or maybe earlier. I'm not sure, but now I'm thinking like 90s. I'm thinking like late 80s, 90s. It was about this house that this guy moved into, him and his family, and it was like it was high tech, like everything. It's kind of like what we're leading to today. Everything was, basically if Surrey had a house, this this is what it'd be like. Everything could be done for him, cook his dinners and all that stuff. It locks the house, it secures it, all that stuff. And I think it ended up with the house like turned on him, and it was interesting. I can't remember the name of it, but it was something like that. But as person versus technology, it could always turn bad. It could be a good thing for a little while, but it could also turn back bad. I mean, honestly, I think I look at technology as just it's another tool. It's the people behind it that make it good or bad. So anyway, person versus technology. In my book, Demented, there is the female lead in that book. Her name is Megan. There's a scene where she literally fights death, death, not death. Everybody's fighting that. She fights the angel of death, and he actually starts. She's fighting this so hard. He actually starts coaxing her on, like, yeah, fight me. Like, don't don't do this. Like, you fight back if you have something to live for. And so she's literally fighting. I mean, is she really fighting her destiny? I'm not sure. But the crazy looking woman in this picture is her mother-in-law, and her mother-in-law is demented. So, she she's trying to destroy this woman's destiny, basically. Um, Destroy her, kill her and get rid of her child, all in the name of getting her son back. It's really stupid and, crazy, but that's why it's called demented. So, yeah. But so person versus destiny. I think like that kind of conflict is strong enough to write a whole entire book off of. Whereas I mean, they all can be, but I like to kind of mix it. I write multi-character books. So there's a lot going on in my books of the different characters. And the way that I do it, I can actually share a lot of stuff from my book and people still won't know what's really going on in the book because they'd have to read it because it's just there's all these different stories. For example, Spirit right now, that's like reading 3 books in one. It's not as thick as 3 books, but it's like reading 3 stories in one. You have Maxwell and Cressida, Tamaris and Michaela, Max and May, and then you also have Nelson and Cora. So you got these 4 couples, and on top of these 4 couples, there's other people in their lives. There's other people that they're dealing with, um, that's, on different levels and different things going on. So, and and then the story has to kind of weave itself together to come down into one. So it's a lot of fun and it gives me a lot of content, a lot of things to write about, a lot of different angles to look at, and I really enjoy it. So I think I do write a lot of things about destiny, soulmates, spiritual, supernatural. I kind of mix all of these conflicts that we're going over. I probably have it all in one book. So this is person versus destiny. Person versus time. Maybe your character has a limited amount of time to rescue somebody or, you know, whatever it is they're doing. You can really, really play with that. Maybe like time travel. Time travel movies are good for that. Things like that. Like just time. It's really not a whole lot to go on this one. I mean, it's pretty much self-explanatory. I think we deal with this every day, you know, time to get to work. We're racing against time. We're always racing against time. It could even be like aging, trying to do something before you get too old to do it. It's another person versus time. Well, first of all, let me apologize for the font. I was I forgot to change it to white. I normally do, but I forgot in this instance. So it says person versus unknown. Stepping into the unknown, stepping into the undiscovered, not knowing what's going to happen next. And that could be anywhere from your characters leaving for college, first day of high school, first day of middle school, um, going into a relationship, and leaving the state, leaving the country, like, that first time you don't know what to expect, or stepping into another dimension if you want to go into the fantasy sci-fi realm. So you don't know what to expect, you don't know you know, what to do. My best advice when you're writing conflict is to really take the time to really feel, like, how should I put it? To really put yourself in the character's shoes from head to toe, like what it feels like, like if you have a strong imagination as a writer. So, for example, if they're stepping into another realm, maybe the swirling wind wrapping around them. What does that wind smell like? What does the wind taste like? Is that wind warm? Is it moist? Like just things like that. You don't have to overdo it, but just enough. You have to find the right balance. Just enough to make that reader feel it also. I think that's very, very important. Like I said, you want to be passionate about what you're doing. You want to put your heart into it. Put your passion into your writing, and your book is gonna be absolutely, like, it's gonna be so memorable and just become like a favorite read for so many people. That's my honest belief. That it's gonna be like an easy bestseller and probably way better than a lot of books that are already out there. So just think about it. So if you've read any of my books before, you probably already know that a lot of my books have to do with spiritual, the supernatural. Um, Even though I speak about or I mention God in my books or angels, I actually am not religious, and it's not intended to be religious. It's more intended to be spiritual. So I uh I found that for me, reason why I write a lot of my books to see spiritual, very spiritual, or to have spiritual elements in it, is because I feel like it's an aspect of our lives that should not be ignored. No matter what your faith is, whatever it may be, I feel like it should not be ignored. I feel like it's probably the most important part of your your being. So, um, when it comes to writing, it kind of makes it like it opens up a whole new level of writing because I feel like there's a lot of passion in there. There's a lot of things that can be explained through there. So I've actually resolved issues in my own personal life by writing out these scenes that the characters had that were on a spiritual level. I've written out scenes where when an angel was speaking to a person on a certain topic, and it was an issue that maybe I was having in my life, and it actually helped me. It actually helped heal me from different things. So, because of the conversation that was developed through, deep thought, passionate writing, and really just putting your heart and soul into what you're doing, you'd be amazed at what comes through and what answers it can give you in your own personal life. So it's helped me become a much better person. I'm a lot more patient, a lot more understanding of people. I actually made a mission at a young age to understand people. I've always been that way. I used to sit on top of I used to sit by the window and say hi to people. And then I had asked my mom one day, we was living in Brooklyn, New York. I grew up in I lived in Flatbush until I was probably about 9 years old. Then I moved to Florida. I know, I know. Anyway, um, I had begged my mom to let me sit on a windowsill and so that I could wave to the people coming home from work. It was like so important to me. So my mom, she was an avid book reader. So she's like, fine. So she lets me sit on the window. Now the windowsill is on the second floor, and there's an overhang. It's a long overhang that um I w- I want to say the overhang was probably like, I don't know, 5 feet maybe. I don't know. When you're a kid, things look so much bigger, and when you become adult, like if I was to go back there now, I'd be like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? But when you're a kid, it seemed huge. Like to me, it seemed like it was like 7 or 10 feet, but it was probably in reality maybe 5 feet. Well, I was sitting on the windowsill, and my mom was holding on to the back of my shirt, and it's above the overhang. It's not like my feet are dangling over the ear, nothing like that. Like it wasn't that bad. It sounds horrible, but my mom, you don't understand how much I begged this woman to do this. So she hold on to the back of my shirt, and I would be waving, 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 and so I'm saying hi, and people would be looking around like, who said that? And then they'll say hi back, or they'll just look really weird, and they'll keep on walking, and I'm like, oh, they didn't see me. Oh, I'm probably scaring them because they don't know it's me. Well, my grandmother had called my mom for something. Something had happened. And probably what my mom probably should have done is took me out the window. But she told me to stay put, don't move. And I said, okay. And when I realized she was gone, like she was gone, like she was down the, because we lived it was, it was a basement. First floor, second floor, and it was a pretty nice sized house. So my grandparents' room was on the opposite side of the house, but we were on the second floor. And so when I realized she was gone, I was like, and I saw a lady coming. I really wanted to say hi to her. So I was like, she's not gonna see me. So my little crazy butt, I almost fell off. I almost fell off the uh, the second floor of my house because I started to walk, and then like gravity started to get me, so I stopped. And went down on my belly and I crawled to the edge of the overhang, and I held on, and the lady's walking by, and I said, "Hi." And she nearly had a heart attack because she looks up and she sees this little girl. I was probably, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 at this time. I don't think I was in school yet, so I'm thinking I was 4. And I was small, and she freaked out. She freaked out. She's like, "Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh." And she saw me. My mission was accomplished. So I got up and I went back to the windowsill. She had came and she had knocked on the door and told my family how this little girl is hanging off the windowsill, and she was so scared that I was gonna fall. She was rightfully so, but yes, I didn't get to do that again. But it was always so important for me to say hi to people, and because I felt like they were having a hard day at work, and it would be nice for someone to just be kind. Just say hi. Just a nice, kind hi. I really felt like I was doing the world a service as a child. So the irony is my daughter now, my youngest, she says hi to everybody. She is like a little replica of me. She says hi to everybody. Like and like now as I'm older and adult, I'm like, oh, do you have to say hi to everybody? Like I try to bite my tongue on it, but everywhere we go to Walmart, she says hi to every single person. Everybody. Even in the house. If we walk into the room, she says hi. On our way walking out the room, she says hi. She she says hi to us, like, I don't know, 100 times a day, and we're all in the same house. We've seen her a million times throughout the day, but she still if you walk in the room, she says hi, you walk out the room, she says hi, or she'll say bye. Like, she just always does this, and it's funny because I can't get mad because I know where she's getting it from, you know? Anyway, this is why I like writing the spiritual. I feel like you can dive into things in your own life and it can explain things. I said hi because I knew that it made people feel better for someone to hear a nice voice because everybody's fighting a battle. Everybody's going through a struggle. So that's all I have to say. And I hope you enjoyed this talk about conflicts in fiction writing.